Say I only want to do one a day, and I take out mileage on my vehicle, I take out
indoor air quality testing. You're certainly not going to be able to do it in the context of a standard home inspection.
So some clients have expressed interest in having their home inspected periodically to avoid, costly repair. Hi, I'm Gary Smith, and we're in the house bringing you fresh perspectives on the latest inspection news and events. Today, I'm here with Charles Buell and Chris Murphy. Chris operates a multi-inspector company in Metro Houston, Texas, and Charles and I operate single inspector companies. Charles is in Seattle. I'm in Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you for joining us in our Sunday open mic show. Today, we're going to be talking about ancillary inspection services. And of course, how you can get rich doing that, as we all know. That's what you want to do.
Right on.
Pile it on. And, a little earlier in the day, I was kind of mulling over, what to talk about here and looking at some, putting together some show notes, and ran across a really nice little article that Alan Carson wrote in the ASHI Reporter 1 year ago this month, May 2017. And I'll just, I want to read just a little bit. Ancillary services fall under the broad category of selling more services to each client. So there are two distinct types of ancillary services that sort of relate to what we do. Services that are offered to the client at the time of the inspection, and then services that are offered to the client after they move into the house. So there's two types. An excellent example of an ancillary service is the classic fast food question. Would you like fries with that? Because clearly the marketing team at McDonald's understood that once a person is in the buying mode, it's very easy to get that person to buy more, right? So most home inspectors, however, know very little about how to apply this ancillary service concept to their business. So before we kind of get rolling here on your thoughts. First of all, should we be offering the ancillary service at all? Why do we add this stuff on? Why isn't it in our regular path? Or isn't the inspection data that we deliver enough? Or why not just include other services with the standard inspection, right? So what do you think, Charles?
Well, yeah, what a can of worms.
We're known for opening cans of worms here.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, there's so many areas where we can add value and make more money doing things that are within the scope or just barely outside the scope. That most ancillary services that are of little value anyway don't need to be added as a way to make money. That's my broad brushstroke about it.
Right.
Let's continue on.
Well, in my opinion, just from a multi-specter point of view, is you never leave any money on the table. So if you're leaving out, why should Joe that goes in the same place as you do go and look for termites when you can easily look for termites in the same areas that you're going to be anyways? So I think you should be paid for that. Also, another thing that I'm looking into that I'm going to get into this year is sewer scope inspections.
Okay.
And both, I think, add an incredible value to the inspection and makes the home buyer feel more comfortable to it. If they don't want it, in a way, that's okay. But if they do want it and they want to feel safer moving in, completely agree with that. So I think adding in those extra services takes more time and you should be paid for it. And then also it adds an incredible value to your company too as well, and makes you seem more credible. More tools, more you charge more.
So go ahead, Charles.
No, I just say he brought up an interesting thing, because I think we really have to distinguish between the kinds of ancillary services that actually do provide additional value and those that are just fluff. I mean, clearly, I think that every home inspector should automatically be doing structural pest inspections or bug inspections, whatever you call them in your area. But here, I don't even consider that an ancillary service. It's just essential to what I do.
What would you consider fluff, Charles? Just curious.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I don't think that home inspectors can do sewer scopes in the context of a home inspection, for example. I think they're necessary and a really good idea, but I've seen too many of these guys get bogged down on the job while I'm there that would double my time there.
Mhm.
Right, but
Mhm.
an average inspection fee for us is around $470. And then if I increase the price $250, I increase my time by 30%, but also I increase my value by over 30%. So I think being bogged down a little bit is okay in the inspection process and making more money in
And
the
because you're already at the site,
right.
sticking with the sewer inspection, because you're already at the site, you may be at a better price point than the plumbing service that would have to make a special trip to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So your price point would be a little better.
Yeah, your price point would be better. And then also, say I only want to do one a day and I take out mileage on my vehicle. I take out a whole nother appointment, ISN fees, whatever fees that come along with my inspection services. And I do one a day and I'm happier. I get to go home earlier. I get to spend more time with the family. So I think it adds value that way too.
Yeah. Are you doing sewer scopes, Chris?
Not quite yet. I want to finish my training. I really want to get up to par. I'm going to ride out with a few inspectors and plumbers to bring them up.
And will you be pulling toilets?
No. I'm only going to do, I don't want to remove anything. I'll only do clean out covers or I'll go through the roof, the plumbing stacks. That's
because here it's expected that a sewer scoper will pull a toilet if that's the only way you can do it.
Right.
We'll ask some basic questions and we'll do our best to acknowledge it. And if we can't, we'll just refund them the money whenever we show up. I've talked to another inspection company in the area and they lose about 20% of their jobs because they can't pull toilets. Mm-hmm. So you do have to take that into account too. So you're already not scheduling a second inspection for the day. Mm-hmm. And it stinks when you show up and you don't have you can't pull that toilet.
So for our newer guys who are beginning to get into this business and are interested in ancillary inspections, one of the other topics might be to consider when you set up your business model, and this is all about operating a more profitable inspection business is kind of what our theme is for today. Is who does the selling? Do you probably need to have in gear how you plan to upsell that? And I know a lot of that will depend on if that ancillary inspection service is offered at the time of the inspection or it's after they move in. So Chris, when you do yours, when you get up and running, is one of the things you're going to consider is having staff sell that at the point of entry? Will you make that offer to them once the inspector's there? Will all the inspectors have this equipment on their truck and you'll just have one guy with it on the truck? How do you plan to implement that?
All really good questions, Gary. I've thought about pretty much all of it. One of the things that I strongly believe in my home inspection services is I do not change the price whenever the inspector shows up. I don't like the idea where I show up for $470 because whenever I was buying a house a long time ago, that's a lot of money to me.
Okay.
So I don't want my inspector show up and be like, oh, you have a sprinkler system, that's $30 more. I'm just telling them to knock out the sprinkler system, make them happy, make them feel like they're purchasing something. But I don't change the price whenever I'm doing it. The sewer scopes, I've thought about it, and you show up and they didn't buy it, and I see that they have cast iron plumbings, be like, our company does offer this. I think that's something that we would have to upcharge on site, but I do want to ask the questions before we get there. So
on intake, you would bring that in and address that at intake and have that potential. So will you have a list of ancillary services on your website that basically says we do home inspections plus these and then list them?
Yes. Well, before when I first started, I had, I did inspection services and then thermal scans and infrared, zip levels, and I had all these additional fees. And then I felt like whenever the client was calling or I actually got feedback, they felt like they were getting nickeled and dimed almost. They're like, oh, well, I'm already spending $400. So then I just kind of wrapped them all up, bundled it up, included it all in one inspection, and I don't nickel and dime. So this will be actually one of the only questions I'll be asking is, would you like a sewer scope scan added to your inspection? So WDI is free for us, but it's wrapped into the price of the inspection. And all my inspectors carry zip levels, thermal cameras. I have them loaded with tools so they can do the best possible job for their clients.
So on each inspection, you pull the thermal camera out, and you pull the level out, and you provide these services on every job.
Yes, I don't let them. I tell them they don't have to do the zip level on every job. I do it to justify their calling out. So if they're going to call out a foundation, I have them use the tool to justify.
So if they got brick cracks, they might shoulder that with some type of evidence that the foundation is in disrepair as well.
Yes, sir,
Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I use a thermal camera on every job, but I don't upsell it. It's just a tool that's necessary for what I do.
Right, completely.
Right, so it's baked into the price, basically. Yeah, it's included into your price. So
yeah, I mean, same way a moisture meter. Do we charge extra for moisture meter?
So do you charge extra for a reinspection? That would there are 5 or 6 categories of ancillary services that I wanted to kind of throw at you guys and just ask. You could offer to verify that the improvements were made, after you put it in your report and you say, we'll come back for X amount. Is that something that you
always?
So that's an ancillary service that you would provide probably at the job.
I don't consider it really an ancillary service. It's usually a drain. It's usually just a public service that I do because I'm a nice guy. But, it's hard to make money on re-inspections.
I agree with Charles. Yeah, definitely. The profit margin is very low and you lose a job most of the time whenever you do a re-inspection. So I'm not a huge fan of re-inspections, but I do it for the client because it makes them happy.
Yeah. It's you get huge points for it.
Right.
So it's a touch point for the client, not necessarily an income producer for your business.
Exactly.
What about seasonal inspections where you'd come out and check the gutters in the fall and the things like that, where maybe your client's an older client or handicapped or some other reason that they couldn't necessarily manage it? Do either of you do any type of seasonal?
I clean wasps.
When you're there?
No, I come back in the winter when they're freaking dormant. I'm not messing with them when I'm there.
That's funny. No, I've actually thought about that, and it's ran through my mind of being like, do you want a home maintenance plan or something? But again, that still falls underneath my morals of I'm a home inspector. That's what I am, and I don't like to wear multiple hats. So I know some people agree I'm leaving money, or will say I'm leaving money on the table, but I don't, I'm a home inspector.
So for you and your business model, that doesn't fit. So you have your limits as to what your ancillary services would provide, and coming back and talking to them about stuff after they've purchased is not necessarily something that you chase or that you would offer.
Yeah.
So some clients have expressed interest in having their home inspected periodically to avoid, costly repairs afterwards. Maybe you develop some type of annual inspection. And I know HomeBinder has formalized this concept into what they call an annual property review, where the inspector is called as a reviewer and visits the home every year or two and offers the client an updated condition report, if you will. Where in some cases they even offer subcontractors to help with the repairs. Either that's something that neither one of you have considered, or in some states I think that that might be prohibitive.
Well, I do a fair number of where people just want me to come in and look. I haven't had the house inspected in 6 years, so I think it's time to have a look at it. And, I do those, but I just do a full normal inspection on the house.
In the state of Texas, you're allowed to inspect any, you don't even have to use the state mandated form as long as the house isn't for sale. So as long as they don't tell us that the house they're selling or buying the house, I can go in there and give them any of opinion as long as they want to pay the fee, So I have had people call out and be like, hey, can you come out and take a look at my foundation? I had this foundation company give me a $4,000 quote, and I just want a second opinion. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll head out there. So
this touches on something awesome, in my opinion. This is something that the home inspectors are totally missing the boat on. When anybody in the planet has a question about their house, why isn't the first person they think about a home inspector to figure out what's going on?
After the sale, after they move in,
yeah, anytime.
In a year and a half later, something comes up.
10 years later, or even if they've never even bought the house, they just live in the house. They say, look, I got XYZ going on. Can you come over and figure it out? Why don't they call home inspectors? Why do you call a plumber when you think you have a plumbing leak?
You don't know yet.
Call a home inspector.
Right.
Tell you who you need to call in.
Well,
right. That's a good point.
The main reason why, Charles, I think, is because if you call a plumber to ask about fixing it, and then the plumber shows up and he can't fix it, it's only $75. But if I come out, you pay me $400, I tell you what's wrong, then they have to pay someone $200 to.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't. I mean, I've gone. I had a house the other day with a client was. He, for some reason, thought that he had energized water pipes, and it was blowing holes in his plumbing and causing leaks. And I said,
I recall that post in the group. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, well, that sounds interesting. I'll come over and take a look at it. And I only charged him $200, and he gave me another $50 because I figured it out. I mean, he actually, in fact, did have energized water pipes. He had a bad water recirc pump that was energizing the pipes.
Yeah. So you went beyond the generalist, as Hank has mentioned in here. He says that as generalists, we usually don't troubleshoot down to the component level, especially on HVAC problems, for instance. And Hank, for those listening with us, he is in our webinar as an attendee in the webinar, and we encourage anyone who would like to come in and ask questions during our recording to please do. And
so I think that we should be more than willing to go to the minutia that we're qualified to do. Like I'm weak on heat pumps. I wouldn't mess with those, but there's nothing framing, nothing electrical, nothing plumbing that would scare me away. I mean,
and scare away meaning diagnose and help them with a specific type problem, and which really goes to what Charles and I have talked about in the past, which is being too general and purposefully reserving or stepping back in your daily reading material and your feeding frenzy of knowledge that you should probably have in order to advance in this profession. I worry about this. So many of us feeling that you have a real safe place to stand on. And you don't, venture out and try to learn more and more and more so that you can answer and be more valuable to your client.
What happens in your personal relationships when you withhold?
They usually
bad crap happens, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
No withholding.
I agree with both of you, and I actually will go back. It's okay to stand back if you don't know and recommend a specialist. But if you know the problem, go ahead and dive into it. There's several times where I've been like, this is something I just don't know. And it's okay to let them know that I know this is wrong. Let me take it home and figure it out, or ask, some of my professional friends. And they like it that you are going to take the further action to figure out the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But when you withhold information, that's just plain wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And it's okay to let them know that you don't know. Honestly, like they actually like the fact, I don't know this, but I'm going to go find out. And it's okay. Yeah.
Right. So what about indoor air quality inspections? Indoor air quality is a fairly hot topic, usually somewhat geared to something that an occupant that lives in a home might, in other words, that probably would be some information that you would be able to give your client after they move in, because if you're doing a sample, I mean, I understand you could do a sample and try to find mold before they move in. I understand all that. But a lot of indoor air quality is a result of the owner who lives there. I mean, there are bad habits. They don't change their air filter. There are tons of other reasons that you would have just poor indoor air quality. So that might be a service that you would follow up with, say 6 months after they move in, or 3 months after 90 days, to offer an indoor air quality. Have you guys thought about indoor air quality?
It's a total business. It's okay, but it's a total different business. I mean,
it's a completely different line. So you're talking about specialist training.
I don't think anything that home inspectors are throwing at clients amounts to the qualifications or what's necessary to actually do the job.
Would that fall under the same auspices as an energy audit?
Yeah, I think we can be trained to do energy audits, but I think you have to be an industrial hygienist, frankly, to do indoor air quality testing. I don't think any 1 week course you're going to take online is going to get you there.
Yeah. So again, if we're talking to new inspectors and they're considering adding on services, there are limits that these services you could provide, but you need to be prepared to have it fit your specific knowledge base.
Absolutely. And I think the level of training it takes to do proper indoor air quality testing, you're certainly not going to be able to do it in the context of a standard home inspection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you may think you can, and it's being done every day, but that's what I'm talking about, ancillary services that are basically ripping people off.
I've never touched it. Never even, I've never even looked at it either. So I actually wouldn't even be able to answer the question. So,
the energy audit side of the
energy audit, air quality tests, I've never even thought about going in that direction because I'm still focusing on so much knowledge of just the basic components of a home.
Mm-hmm. I think energy auditing actually fits closer to the building sciences we're involved with every day. It's certainly I mean, I include a lot of energy auditing types of things in my inspections, but I don't do blower door tests and et cetera, et cetera. And there's actually a limited value in performing blower door tests. We know where air leaks in and fix them.
Because the building acts as a system and works as a system, one thing can break 3 other things, and you can quickly begin to diagnose those through the energy audit process. And understanding the principles of the energy audit can help you understand a whole laundry list of other things. I would highly suggest every home inspector at least take some basic energy related training sessions.
I think a huge benefit. Just take a level 1 thermography class and don't even buy a camera. It's a huge benefit to the inspector. That information is important whether you use a camera or not.
I personally have had energy rating training and became an energy rater for a couple of years. So when I picked up the thermal camera, I was right in line with some of the principles that Bill had mentioned in Monroe. Quarterback construction coaching, I do that a lot, where someone calls you, and that is sort of mirrors what Charles was talking about, where someone calls you up with a problem. But I make it very apparent to my clients once they move in, if they're considering adding on a room or finishing an unfinished bonus room or screening in a porch or adding a deck, that I'm available to coach them through how to read blueprints, how to hire subcontractors. Now I'm pulling from a lot of contractor experience, but it is a fantastic way to keep my kind of my finger on that client after they move in, and it certainly builds a rapport.
Well, it's some of these things that like that, Gary, are just so intrinsically related to what we do as home inspectors. What, you know, my beef with some of these ancillary services are the things that are kind of outside of those parameters, and sometimes those are murky or gray areas, but sometimes
so would one of the gray areas be radon testing?
In my opinion, yeah.
What about pool inspections?
Depends on where you are, I guess. I don't see enough pools to know what one is.
What about Chris? Chris, you've got to see a lot of pools in Houston, Texas. Man, it's hotter than hell down there.
I think like every fourth house has a pool down here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we do a lot. We sat through pool classes, and we do more of a structural and mechanical test. We don't test the water, but very strict rules on it is if you can't see the bottom or you can't see through the water, refund them their money. Because
that would definitely bother me if I couldn't see the bottom of the pool.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many times you show up and the pool's green. So
do you put your tick tester on the metal ladders?
Say that again. Sorry.
You put your your non-contact voltage indicator tester. Do you test the metal ladders in the water?
No.
Yeah, see, that's something that's more important to me than anything to do with it. I don't care whether they can swim in the water or not, but I don't want them getting killed in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's charged from like the light.
It can be charged from all kinds of sources.
Yeah.
It can be, you can have stray voltage going through the water. I put my ticker in every pool I do come across, you know. Hot tubs, stick the ticker in there, see if the water makes it.
Look at it. You know, that's actually very interesting. You know,
very good tip.
And you know, I mean, that can be easily step process where I put it in the software. They understand at the very beginning, test the voltage. You know, that's pretty important. Thanks, Charles. It's pretty huge.
Just a wealth of knowledge. He is absolutely a wealth of knowledge. Just just go fishing in his brain. He's got it.
Probably kept me out of jail for the future.
What about insurance? So you're talking about ancillary services, and we're talking to new home inspectors. You're thinking about getting into this business that way. You're going to have to consider potentially having a rise in your insurance. Your liability coverage could change, could affect it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know any different from being I was a sole proprietor for a short period of time, but I was still part of my father's company, and I paid into a multi-inspector insurance policy. So I don't know the difference between a single man or a multi-inspector insurance policy. I'm just used to paying a lot. So
do you guys check for radon down in Houston much?
We don't have radon here in Houston. There's some people that found it like in the Dickinson area, which is southeast of Houston, but it's not enough for me to go out and buy all the equipment and get the training in it. It's not here. We don't have basements.
How about you, Gary?
We have it here. I have a continuous monitor. I don't get called a lot by it. I've taken training at Auburn University. Actually, I took the training in Tennessee, but Auburn put the training on. I think that I know that I've checked my insurance, and my insurance would go up if I added some ancillary services. And
it does go up, but honestly, like it's not by much. It's like $100.
Yeah.
It's very little for what whenever I add on something new. I don't know how much it'll go up by sewer scope scans, but I talked to one of my friends and he said it went up $50.
So my focus in bringing it up was not necessarily that the premium would go up, is that you don't get it and that you're hung.
Oh, and then you're
by the neck, like hung. You do something wrong and you're not covered.
Oh, okay. You're saying if you do add it, make sure that you're adding it on.
Make sure you cover yourself. Yeah.
Very, very good point.
What about during your report writing software, when you are considering new guys, when you're considering potentially buying into this program and you're ready to go, and you're going to consider ancillary services? You want your report writing software to help you maybe and the service that you offer may require a different type of report. Meaning that if you do a pool, maybe it's part of your inspection, but maybe it's a completely different report that you deliver. And so you would want to check with your software company to assure that your software at least supports helping you provide ancillary services if you
see,
go down that path.
With my SPI, it's just built right into my report. I don't separate them out. I could, but I don't want them separated out. I want the homeowner, the buyer, to realize that this is an integral part of their house. All the conducive conditions and all of that, you know.
So I was wondering if we could answer one or two of the questions that were in the poll on the Facebook page.
Yes, fire away.
Nice. All right. So one of the questions that I think kind of falls underneath my specialties of how I run the business is one of the questions I think is really funny. It says, how do you get rich becoming a home inspector? Right. And I honestly think.
Yeah. Let me get my pencil. Hold on. I want to jot this one down. Hold on.
I honestly believe this is a very relative question, because you can be rich in several different ways, and you can get, and by doing that, becoming a home inspector, it can free up your time a lot. And you could be a one-a-day inspector pulling in $400 a day, doing 5 inspections a week, and you can make pretty decent money in a living, and you're only working 4 hours a day, right? And you get to spend as much time on doing whatever you want. But then there's also riches where you want to drive around in the Lexus, right? So that's, how do you get to that point? And the point that I have to say is you have to build a structured system and follow a very specific business plan, and make sure that you always take care of your clients and have that rolling income, and have some sort of drip method where you're always staying in contact with people. And that's going to how you're going to get a butt ton of inspections.
Yeah, that's all. Those are all good points. Those are all good points to make.
Yeah, there's a old saying, Americans sort of want to have, do, and be. You know, it's like if they have all this money, then they can be something, or as opposed to be, do, have. In other words, if you be who you are, do what you need to do, you will end up having what you need
as a result from it. Yeah.
So
and I think that really goes back to reflect, you know, choose what you want to do. Don't always just focus on the money of the inspections. Just realize, be like, I want to become a home inspector because it frees up my time, or I want to become a home inspector because it does make a lot of money, but try to understand what you're going to do with it. You know, I don't buy anything nice. I like to buy tools and fancy cameras and stuff, and I can reflect it all back onto my business. And that's the reason why I enjoy being a home inspector. You know, so try to reflect on what actually becoming rich is. Don't think about the money, in my opinion.
Very good. Do you have any other questions in there that we looked at earlier?
Oh, it says, what to bring with you to your presentations for agents? I think that's a very good question, because this is actually going to change. I actually, when I used to show up, I used to bring all kinds of crap. I used to bring pens. I used to bring notebooks, all this stuff, right? And then I realized that they were throwing it all away. Whenever I show up show up a week later or 2 weeks later, I look in, I'd see my stuff in the trash can, right? So I've actually turned my strategy around. Your whole goal by being there is to get their business cards, because they're not going to reach back out to you. So your goal is get a $10 Starbucks card. You don't have to $50. You don't need the $20. You'd be like, let me buy a cup of coffee, and you do like a small raffle. You're going to get like 15 or 20 business cards there. It's what you do with those business cards. You reach out to them on Facebook, call them personally, get in front of them. If you're not busy, you should be talking to one of them and be like, hey, let me buy you lunch. You know, become their friends, and they're going to refer you out. Figure out which one is actually the top producer and link yourself to them, because that is how you're going to get more home inspections out there. Anyways, that's my rant. I'm sorry about that, but it's not about what you bring. It's about what you say and how you get their business cards whenever you show up. I only come with a stack of business cards this thick and Chick-fil-A. That's it.
Again, it fits that be, do, have, as opposed to have, do, be.
Oh, just throwing stuff at them, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, just being yourself and showing up. Be there for 100%. And all this business of trying to make yourself look good by baubles and bling, that's not you.
Right.
And most people can see that.
I don't even dress nice. I actually wear my beat up boots. I wear my inspection pants, my inspection shirt that you've seen on the videos. I show up just like that. I have my flashlight in my pocket. I show up as a home inspector. So when and they'll even ask me home inspection questions and I can answer it. And I'm telling you, they love it. They love it 100%, that they're talking to the home inspector and they're given home inspection knowledge that makes sure you get those cards, because that is the only way they're going to remember you, because you're going to have to contact them again. As soon as you get home, and put it on Facebook, reach out, become their friend, and stay in front of them constantly. So that's my opinion on it. Yeah.
Chris is too young to know the TV show Columbo, but that's kind of my approach. I have a beater car and dress funky. And I'm being facetious, but the point is that it's not about that. They're hiring you for what's in your head and what you can see and what you can find and how you report it. And that's the value.
And then how you
staying consistent. I think staying consistent certainly is something that I have found that over the years that especially homeowners, but agents more, because they see you more often, they want to hear the same level of specificity, report after report after report. That if you're touting yourself as a specialist and someone that knows, then a lightweight report is probably going to be noticed. If you're going to go down the path and get in this ancillary inspection service thing and broaden your scope, you need to be prepared to stay consistent with that and consume a lot more knowledge, increase your knowledge base.
Consistency is everything. 100% believe that. And I even have the same speech to the same client. The agents are used to hearing it. I go over the report the same exact way. I explain it to them in the same exact way, and they're used to it. And it is about consistency.
And if you haven't used the agent before, they may not understand your business model is different from everybody else's at all. I had a call just this morning from an agent who was an agent I didn't know, and she wanted me to do a walkthrough inspection for her client. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And I explained to her that, it'd be XYZ costs and there'd be no written report. And she said, well, if we get the house, then you could write the report, right? I said, no, I have to come back and actually do an inspection. I can't, what am I going to do? Produce it from memory? And I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't take any pictures. I don't do anything except talk about the major significant issues that might warrant whether they make an offer or not. And she had a hard time understanding that. I said, well, some of the guys do that. And I said, well, yeah, but look at their reports compared to mine. Your 25-page reports, you could probably do off the couch or off the listing info without even leaving home. But mine, I'm going to be there 4.5 hours and I'm going to provide a 90-page report. And she says, oh, okay.
Man, that's intense. 90 pages.
So the business model is totally different, Charles. You provide a different level, a different type of product, and that has a place in our marketplace. And if you think back when you first got started, the confusion that a lot of newer guys that are coming into this field, and they want to know, which path to take. I think, first of all, you need to have been in business a little while so that you could make a better decision as to where you want to venture. If you've got a real deep knowledge base and you feel comfortable moving into an extra inspection services, then you're going to be a lot friendlier. It's going to meet you. You're going to be friends with that service a lot easier than someone that doesn't.
My entire business model is an ancillary service in a sense.
Say that again.
My entire business model is an ancillary service in a sense.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, you say like Chris, 90 pages. And I have lots of them that are 120. I mean, that's and nobody's doing that, and so I don't have any competition. Zero.
That's exactly right, and I think that being specific and that being special is what helps a lot of folks market. I know for Chris, a lot of his video stuff and a lot of the ways that he is specific to his area and how he sets himself apart from his competition allows him to garner a larger piece of the pie. And that certainly is definitely one of the keys to staying busy, especially in downtimes when.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Gary, and how the ways you setting yourself apart is really the best ancillary service you can do for yourself. You don't need all the stuff, you know, set yourself apart, make yourself different, make yourself so that you have no competition.
Yeah, also, you know, I just kind of had a reflection whenever you said during downtime, make sure that you don't stop marketing during downtime. You know, that's one of the things that I think people fail the most on is whenever it's slow, they're like, oh, it's slow, there's not going to be much business out there. I was actually busy all through November, December, and January this year because I never stopped consistently marketing, and people won't forget about you, you know, so make sure that's actually part of it too as well. I know that kind of jumped topics, but I just wanted to, I didn't want that to go off the show.
Good conversations. Guys, any last thoughts?
No, thank you for allowing me on the show again.
This is your show, man. Thank you for showing up for your show.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it. Awesome.
Mr. Charles?
Yeah, love to be here. Great fun.
We've said it all. We can't say any more about it's your turn now. Just click on the YouTube channel. Search us up on youtube.com/Today's Home Inspector, and you'll be able to watch our happy faces on. If you can't and you want to catch us driving, we're on iTunes and SoundCloud. For Charles Buell and Chris Murphy, this is Gary Smith. Talk soon.